Yes, you read the title correctly. I did a health and wellness challenge for 40 days straight. This is what I found. If you haven't seen my face before, I'm Isabella, and today I'll be sharing my experience with a 40-day wellness challenge focused on fascia maneuvers. I'm not going to lie, it was not easy. This challenge definitely tested my discipline, and there were times that I felt like giving up, but I prevailed and I am proud. Just a quick note, if you see me looking down here, it's because I actually wrote a script for this video, which is literally the first time I've ever wrote a script for one of my own personal YouTube videos. So we'll see how this plays out. Let me know how you like it and I'll see how I like it, and I'll kind of go from there to see if some videos in the future will be scripted and whatever. So let's get into it. So understanding the 40-day wellness challenge. So what is fascia and its significance in wellness? Simply put, fascia is connective tissue that surrounds every part of your body and supports your tissues and organs. If you are trauma informed, then you know that there has been an increase in evidence that proves just how much our bodies do keep the score in terms of holding on to trauma that we are not able to process in a certain point in time. Let's get into the overview. So this challenge was founded by a not-for-profit called Human Garage. I think a lot of people believe that there's a lot of money associated with this challenge, and it's simply not true. I'll get into that. So this challenge is completely free, but there are some components that you might need to spend money on. For example, they tell you to eat only organic foods, obviously suggesting that you cut out processed foods. They also tell you to drink celery juice every morning and take their recommended supplements that will support you in the challenge. Human Garage kindly gifted me some of their supplements for free, but I am not sponsored by them, and I'm not going to lie, their supplements are pretty expensive. Their 28-day life reset package is $311.94, and that price is also in USD, although they are based out of Canada, so that's something to consider. I feel like a lot of their audience is also in Canada, with some being in the US, so that's just something to consider. Now, I will say, if you cannot afford the supplements, do not let that stop you from engaging in the challenge. Yes, the supplements are an amazing tool to support you, but the maneuvers will help you increase your healing in the journey with or without the supplements. So it's not completely essential if you cannot afford them. I say go ahead, do it without, and then when you can't afford them, integrate those into your life at a later time, or maybe reconsider doing the challenge twice, one without and then one with, or something like that, just to make this very accessible to more people. Don't feel pressured like you have to buy the supplements, because you'll have amazing results either way. Let's get into the structure. So the first 11 days are a bit more unstructured, and that's because they're essentially teaching you the basics while you wait for your supplements in the mail if you did decide to order them. Now let's get to the good part, the 28-day reset. Oh my gosh. So they do advise you to start every day with 1 glass of organic, preferably freshly pressed celery juice. There are also different doses of their supplements that you have to take. Some supplements called Mass Zymes from another brand. I think that they have a discount code on their site for that. And then they also recommend that you eat a few times after you do all of these supplements and juices and stuff like that. So after all of that, you will typically have some educational content to read, which thank gosh is usually less than 15 minutes, and it's very insightful, very interesting, especially if you are particularly passionate about health and wellness. I think you will also enjoy that. Sometimes there are also short videos to accompany this educational information, but usually there is longer form content that you have to watch or listen to, usually in the form of a podcast, which can really help educate you even more and give you more insight into the world of fascia healing and some other connective kind of issues or diseases or conditions or things like that. So it's just really, really cool. But I will say this is something that I did kind of fall short on. I chose to do my maneuvers usually at the end of the night because the busy day got a hold of me, and I usually ended up doing it at night, but I'm trying to remember that at least I did it all. So as you can probably tell, when you're unwinding and you're doing those maneuvers, the last thing you want to do is listen to an hour podcast. So that's somewhere I kind of went wrong. If I could do it all over again, I think I would really hold myself more accountable to doing the maneuvers in the morning. So learn from me, don't make the same mistakes as me, get those maneuvers over with in the morning, and then you could have time for everything else throughout the day, and I think that would make the process a lot more seamless for you. And after all of that, then you are on to the fascia maneuvers. So let's talk a bit about the daily commitment. The timing of the maneuvers really varies day to day. I would say some days are 0 and some days are up to 2 hours. So let me explain a bit more about that. So there was one rest day with 0 maneuvers, and then on the final day, there were almost 2 hours worth of maneuvers. Luckily, over the duration of the 28 days, you kind of get a better idea and you're able to memorize the maneuvers, so you don't necessarily have to follow along every single time. But I will say, don't make the mistake of not following along just because you think you know what they're gonna do, because sometimes they add different maneuvers that you didn't even know about. So I would recommend watching the videos every day. Even if you think that you have it handled, just watch them. At the beginning of the challenge, the timing every day for the maneuvers alone is usually around 30 minutes or less every day. But then as you get closer to that 28-day mark, the time gradually increases and you get closer to about an hour every single day. So typically you can expect to spend an hour or less on the maneuvers every day. Now you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, all of this every day for 40 days. Yes, it is a big commitment, but I will say every day counts. And technically for you, this will only be a 39-day challenge. And I say that because I had the pleasure of doing the first day with Human Garage on their live on Instagram. So it was actually kind of a bit unrelated to the actual challenge itself. So for me, it was 40 days. For you, it might only be 39 unless you choose to extend it. So keep that in mind. Every day counts and another day of rest is amazing. So for you, it might only be 39. I'm not going to lie. The challenge is a huge commitment, but if you're someone who has experienced trauma of any sort, and personally, I think everyone has a little bit, at least a little bit of trauma, but that's a conversation for another time. If you do have trauma, then I think this challenge will benefit you in at least one way, accessing the challenge. So luckily they did a pretty good job at formatting this challenge, and it was pretty straightforward for me. I know for some older people they can get confused, but essentially they have a challenge hub on their website. So once you join the challenge, it will take you to like a separate kind of landing page sort of thing, where you will then see the hub, and it's literally like a challenge, you know? You have to complete one day to unlock the next day. So you don't get to just skip along and do it as whenever you please. Like, no, you have to do it day by day in order to unlock the next day. So not only are you able to do it in a web browser, they also have an app with a specific login and code to kind of join their part of the app. I guess you could say it's kind of like a hosting app. It's not their specific app. Personally, I chose to do everything on my web browser just because I found it extremely helpful to watch the daily tutorials on a bigger screen instead of having like this smaller phone and you can't really see it when it's far away, and just I found it easier just to keep the tab open on my laptop, kind of click through all of the different days and just kind of go that way. So that was easier and that was best for me, but you do whatever you feel called to. So let's get into the good part, my personal journey with this challenge. So week 1 was kind of like the initial struggles. I was still feeling my way through, but the first day was a real treat for me because, as I mentioned, I got to join Human Garage live on their Instagram. I was definitely anxious because it was very, very unexpected. I quite literally just requested to join. It was like a spur of the moment decision because they were taking people to join their live and they were accepting requests. So long story short, it was a spur of the moment decision. I requested to join. I got accepted. I wish you guys could have saw live footage of me standing there like, oh my god, it's loading, like what did I do? I was pretty nervous just because I had never done fascia maneuvers, you know? Obviously that's hard, but then to do it on live with a bunch of people you don't know is like so unexpected. It was just very fast. But anyways, let's get into it. So out of all of the 40 days, for me, the first day was the most transformative. I think it had the most impact for me because here's some kind of like analogy. So imagine you spent your whole life, let's say you're 20, you know, you've spent 20 years not working out, you know, not doing anything, and then you finally think, wow, I should get a gym membership. Let me try this out. You know, what's the hype about? You go into that gym, you hop on that treadmill, you start walking, and then you start going a little faster, you start running, and then when the workout is over, you hop off, and all of those amazing chemicals and endorphins are just making you feel that runner's high so much. You feel great, your blood is pumping, your breath is going, you know, you're feeling really good. So I would kind of relate it to that. After going your whole life without doing intentional fascia maneuver work, the first day is really, really impactful because you're like, wow, like you can really notice the impact of it more. At least that's what I found, so let me get into that a little bit more. I think that this first day had the most impact for me because before the fascia maneuvers, like my mind and body baseline was pretty chaotic. I'm someone that's been working through daily dissociation, so when I finally first got that taste of a quieter mind than usual, it was like, wow, what's going on? Like it was crazy. Essentially, the first day allowed me to quiet my mind while feeling more grounded overall. I took a nice walk by the lake, and then I found a nice bench by the water, and I just journaled, and I kind of got everything out and set my intentions for the challenge. Now let's hop over to day 3. It was kind of insane because I woke up feeling so light and snatched. Like I did not feel bloated. I was able to see my abs more, and it really got me more excited to keep doing the challenge and keep going through it and just to stick to it and see what would happen at the end. Overall, within this first week, I started to notice that I was getting in touch with my body a bit more than usual. As you can imagine, this was revolutionary for me because I'm working through daily dissociation, so anything that helps me do that more effectively is a great tool for me, and I'm really excited that I did this. A key thing that happened to me throughout the challenges was that when I did the maneuvers, I noticed that I would yawn, which is amazing because it is one of your body's regulatory responses when you are starting to finally regulate your nervous system, but also when you are releasing trapped trauma, you tend to release in different ways. So there's crying, there's yelling, there's sweating, there might be puking, there can also be yawning. So it's an amazing sign that you are on the right track. Now, all of these symptoms will most likely be different for every single person, but I noticed personally that yawning is a form of release for me. And I actually initially observed this through my years of therapy, especially EMDR therapy. I would yawn like nobody's business throughout the whole session, and it was just amazing. Now we're on to week 2 and 3, which was me trying to find my rhythm. So after the initial excitement started to wear off over the next week, I started to realize that, wow, like I really committed to this challenge, and I started to realize just how difficult it was going to be for me to persist through the challenge and really just stick to my word and get it done. But of course, I found a way to do that, and I'm very, very proud that I did that. So within this time, my long distance boyfriend came to Canada from California to visit me, which was really, really fun. And on this day in particular, I noticed that I was able to remember to ground myself more. We were in a pretty busy dinner setting and then an arcade later, which was just loud and crazy, and usually that really overwhelms me. But I was able to remind myself to stay grounded and just really remind myself to like plant myself and just stay calm. So those few weeks were also when things really started to get a bit more crazy. I had a very personal and involuntary and also extremely unexpected trauma release, which was essentially me getting extremely overwhelmed in a certain situation and crying and really just like releasing trapped trauma, I guess. It took me and my boyfriend by complete surprise, and it just came out of the blue, and it was honestly very crazy, but clearly it was needed, so I'm very thankful either way. Also, while my boyfriend was visiting me, we were doing the maneuvers together, and it was really fun and enjoyable to have somebody alongside you doing something to benefit your overall health and wellness together. So I would definitely recommend doing it with a partner if you have a partner. It was really, really fun, and I do think it allowed us to bond just a bit more and like on a deeper level. It was totally another bonding experience for us, and healing together is something that I greatly cherish. All right, let's get into week 4 and 5, which was more about transformation and growth. So overall, by week 2 and 3, what we previously just talked about, you probably would have expected me to find my rhythm and routine within the fascia maneuvers more effortlessly, but to be honest, throughout the entire challenge, I struggled greatly with making it a part of my routine in a way that I had imagined. I really imagined doing it earlier in the morning, and I wish I had done that because it would have left time for me to actually work through the educational content and the podcasts a bit more. To this day, I still have some that I need to catch up on, so that's something that is kind of frustrating to me. If I could go back in time, or if I could do it all again, I would say that I wish I really held myself accountable to doing it in the morning. So learn from my mistakes, take this tip, definitely get it over with in the morning or the afternoon at the latest, so you have time for everything else within your day and you don't need to keep pushing it onto the next day because it's not helpful. So essentially, as you can imagine, this was kind of a struggle for me. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'll elaborate on this more soon. Although this part of the challenge felt hard for me, I was really able to stand firm on my word and do what I set out to do, and that means the most to me. Like, I was able to do these every day, and I can confidently say that I did not miss a single day. And that is the real flex, honestly. Yes, the various health and wellness benefits associated with this challenge are absolutely amazing, but I believe that the skill that I personally strengthened throughout the challenge the most was my discipline. I say this because at the end of the day, it was one thing to say that you're gonna do something, but it's completely different to actually hold yourself accountable and do that. And I did, and that's pretty cool. That's amazing, and I'm really proud of myself for that. So I want to acknowledge that. Let's get on to the challenges faced. So physical challenges. So it's not too hard to get a grasp of the physical fascia maneuvers. They are pretty straightforward, and the team does a good job at explaining them in various videos. And I actually got to the point where I did not necessarily need to follow along with the tutorials because I had memorized them. You know, after 28 days, like, you're gonna be able to memorize them. And if it's the exact same tutorial from day to day, you're gonna be able to recognize that, and then you won't necessarily have to follow it along. But make sure that you're checking it daily because sometimes those tutorials are different and different maneuvers. So don't just assume it's the same thing every day because it's not. But if you log on and you see it's the exact same video as yesterday and you have it memorized, go ahead and do that, you know, work through everything and kind of find your flow that way, which is one way I was able to find flow, so that's good. Overall, throughout the challenge, I wouldn't say that I had many physical discomforts. At first, I did have to remind myself not to hold my breath when I was doing the maneuvers, but the audio also reminds you that you are watching your breath and really being intentional with that. So that's something that was really helpful for me. Keep in mind that this is still a learning experience. You're new at this, you know, some maneuvers may be a challenge at first, but always just do the best that you can and go easy on yourself because you will improve throughout the challenge and it will feel very rewarding. I will say that while squatting in some positions, I noticed that my thighs burned. Like, I have to get back to the gym and work on my thighs because they were burning a little bit in some of the squatting positions. But that was because I fell out of my workout routine, you know, like if you're someone who goes and you lift heavy and your thighs are doing great, like you probably won't have that issue. So that's just something I noticed for me personally. That's probably going to be different for you, and everything will vary from person to person. Let's get into the mental and emotional challenges. As I mentioned throughout the video, the maneuvers definitely helped me quiet my head and feel less anxious and feel more grounded overall, which was great. Like I also mentioned, I do believe that the challenge helped me cope with things that are usually sensory triggers for me, like the loud events, loud restaurants, loud music. The main emotional change was the trauma release that I had talked about, which was also kind of like a psychosomatic release. It was really crazy. I can't even explain it, but if you do the challenge and you experience it for yourself, you'll know what it feels like, and it is crazy. Like, it's insane. In relation to that, I will advise you that you are going to notice some things or a lot of things come up mentally, emotionally, physically with trauma, and that can be very hard to experience and relive. With that being said, it's essential that you remain compassionate with yourself and to be as introspective as possible and really use this as an opportunity to work through these things as much as you can and not suppress them even more. Although that can be easier, it will not benefit you in the long run. And the whole point of these challenges is to really get you out of your comfort zone, get you healing, get you healthier, and to really take care of yourself and your wellness. So do not push them down, do not ignore them, work through them, and remain compassionate, and I can almost guarantee that you're gonna have a better experience. I would definitely recommend doing this challenge alongside a therapist or some sort of coach that can really professionally guide you through any hard triggers or emotions that come up while you are doing this challenge. Let's get into some additional tips and recommendations. So I feel like the daily short vlogs that I made throughout the challenge made it seem like the challenge was much easier than it is. So I just want to emphasize that this challenge was not easy. It was just that. It was a challenge, you know? It was made to challenge yourself. It was made to really see what you're made of and see what you can become and who you can heal into. And I think that's really important to note, that it's not gonna be easy, but if you do it, it will be worth it. The same goes for any health and wellness challenge that is directed at personal growth or healing. You know, if you do it, it's gonna be worth it in some capacity. And for me, that was reason enough to keep going. So use that as your own kind of fuel to the fire to keep going. Like, it's not gonna be easy, but it will be worth it. It will. With that being said, I strongly advise you to put very careful thought and consideration into this. This challenge is definitely a pretty big commitment, and although it's very rewarding when you do it properly, I don't want to act like it wasn't a lot of work as well, because it was. My second tip is to stick to your word. If you decide that this is something that you want to do, I challenge you to really stand behind that claim and embody this challenge or any other challenge. Now, I want to be very clear, this does not mean that you have to be perfect. There are some parts to the challenge that I might not have abide by like 100% of the time, like juicing constantly or eating only organic foods. I did have some things that were not organic. I did have a few processed things here and there, but I still had amazing results, and you can too, so just go for it. And although I did not follow it perfectly, I can confidently say that there was not one single day that I missed a maneuver, and I am so proud of that. Side note, I have a very exciting health food related guide coming soon, so make sure you follow me on Instagram for all of those updates. By the time you see this video, it might already be available. The waitlist might already be available, or if the guide is already done and ready, you can find that in the description below. So just make sure to find me, follow me, subscribe, connect, because you do not want to miss the supportive resources that I have for you. My third tip is to make the most of it. Like, this is pretty self-explanatory, but make the most of this challenge. It is a great challenge within an even better community, but I truly believe that there is a lot of value within this challenge, and it is what you make of it, so keep that in mind. My fourth tip is don't stop just because the challenge is over. The first few days that the challenge was over, I was extremely relieved because it is a lot of work. It's a giant commitment, but it's funny because I voluntarily kept doing the maneuvers a few days after the challenge was done. No, I did not do a whole hour of them, but I did some that I found more grounding for myself and that were more practical for me, so I definitely recommend that you do the same. I truly believe that challenges like this are amazing, but they should definitely be used as a tool to help you transform your life for the long run. Don't do these challenges and expect your life to magically get better. Your life is gonna get better when you're putting that effort in by yourself. So keep it going, keep that momentum going, keep these habits incorporated into your life, and you will eventually get to where you want to be. I can tell you with confidence that the maneuvers will definitely be a more permanent part of my life. Even if I don't do them every single day, they will still be incorporated when I feel like I need them, probably once a week, or when I need a little bit of a refresher, or to some extent they are going to permanently be a part of my life now. Overall experience and impact. So overall, like I said before, I'm not gonna lie, this challenge was hard. This challenge was exactly that. It was a challenge. It certainly challenged me, my mindset, my way of life, but it was for a better cause, and I have no regrets about that. Although this challenge was hard, I'm extremely glad that I did it, and I would do it all over again. In fact, I know I'm gonna be doing it all over again, and I've been thinking about making it a yearly thing, so let me know your thoughts on that. Something else I want to highlight here is the fact that the impact of this challenge and every other challenge and everything you do in general in life is going to depend on you, your actions, your mindset, your habits, and your long-term incorporation of these aspects and tools into your daily life. This challenge has definitely impacted me in a positive way, and I'm thankful for my experience with it. But it's important to note that it is not going to fix your life magically or improve your life in some crazy drastic way. Yes, this challenge will help you if you allow it to do so, but improving your life should be an ongoing effort that isn't solely connected to one challenge alone. My key takeaways for the challenge are that 1, fascia work is extremely fascinating and amazing, and I am beyond thankful that I have found this amazing resource. Number 2 is that I can do hard things even when it doesn't feel like it. And then that takes us over to number 3. My final thought is I am extremely proud of myself and everything I have accomplished within the last 40 days. Not only was I working on this challenge, but I have also been working on some really great health and wellness resources of my own that my community has been asking me for, and I'm so excited to get those launched. With that being said, don't forget to subscribe and follow me on Instagram to stay up to date on all things to do with that. Well, that was a brief overview of my experience with this challenge. Along with the challenge, I also journaled every single day of the challenge, and I have been debating on doing a separate video of like a total breakdown of like my day-to-day thoughts and epiphanies or downloads or anything like that. So let me know if that's something that you want, and I can see if that's something that I can do for you guys. Challenge aside, I hope this video was helpful for you and that it encouraged you and inspired you to improve your life in at least one way. If you watched this far, I want you to know that you are a real one. Drop the star emoji below so I know who stayed to this point. Like always, thank you so much for being here, and be sure to subscribe and follow. I would love to have you as a part of my community on a regular basis. If you're interested in seeing those short daily vlogs I mentioned in the video, be sure to head over to my YouTube channel where you can find them in the playlist section labeled 28-Day Reset. And of course, don't forget to follow and subscribe so you can stay up to date on all of the updates and amazing resources I'm going to be offering soon. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye!